Welcome to the Rough Characters podcast. I am your host, Philip Overby.
And I'm John Palladino.
And today we're going to be talking about protagonists, not necessarily the best people or the most uh, glorious people, but the people that we think are the best protagonists of their particular series or particular story. So lots of names that some of you may be familiar with and some may not be familiar with, but these are some of our picks for people that we think really make their series shine even brighter. And before we get into that, let's go to John with some news, some bright, shiny, happy news, I'm sure.
Actually, for once, it is very happy news.
Ooh,
You're, yeah, you already know this, but I just received my copy of Frosthaven in the mail, and today is Friday night, my time, and tomorrow I am going to be going to the airport to pick up my brother and his girlfriend or fiance now, I guess. And we're going to start playing Sunday, I think. So I'm so excited to get into Frosthaven. Uh, now you still haven't gotten your copy, right?
yeah. I'm so jelly, as the young people say. Um, yeah, since I'm in Japan, assuming sometimes it's weird with Kickstarters. Sometimes they get them. Well, I get them earlier than the US, but for this case, I know a lot of people in North America have been getting Frosthaven.
Yeah, the
Um,
first shipment went to the United States, I think.
so for people that don't know, Frosthaven is kind of the standalone sequel to Gloomhaven, which is the number one board game of all time, according to Board Game Geek and according to most people who have played it. I know it kind of varies depending on when you ask me, but Gloomhaven is either my top game of all time or second. Just depends on what day of the week you ask me.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite game of all time. No contest. Pretty sure that Frosthaven will beat it though. I haven't actually done anything with it. I opened it up and followed the instructions for how to open it up, which was 4 pages of sorting components, and it took me like 4 hours to do, which is pretty intense. But I just had that vibe that you get when you like open something and you're like, this is gonna be good.
Well,
Uh,
the one thing that I appreciate about Frosthaven, which appealed to me, I probably would have got it anyway, but the idea that you're kind of like building the settlement as like you do missions, that was one thing that really stood out to me. Like you can get crafting stuff to build things, and I love that kind of stuff in like games. So um one of my other favorite games is called Kingdom Death Monster. It's kind of like the god of super expensive miniature board game, uh dark fat or grim dark hellscape kind of game. It's like a really, really, really ambitious game, and lots of people like it. And one of my favorite parts of it is the settlement building aspect of it. So I'm pretty excited too about Frosthaven, not just the fighting stuff, but the from what I gather, the Frosthaven is kind of an outpost. So kind of the idea is that you're building it up uh, in a
yeah,
way.
I think the story is that you ventured off from Gloomhaven and went up north and are exploring a new area and establishing a new town or something like that. I'm going based off of reading the Kickstarter a very long time ago, so I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Uh, but here's my one qualm. So on the Kickstarter, I didn't actually buy the Kickstarter. My mom did. She got it for me for Christmas. Uh, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, I think it was. Or maybe it was my birthday. Who knows? I don't remember. But so I didn't have any input in this. It was just purchased for me.
Mm,
If I was going to change anything, which I didn't think about until I got the game, and then it dawned on me, so I don't blame. Like, I'm not upset. I could have, if I thought about it, probably had it added on. I just didn't think about it, and that's that I didn't get the removable sticker set.
uh,
Um,
yeah.
and it's currently not out. Um, like I pre-ordered it because I'm hoping to get it as soon as it releases. I don't know when it's going to release, but the idea that I spend, well, again, I didn't buy Frosthaven, but it's worth, I don't know, I forgot how much it was, $280 maybe.
Mm,
It's
yeah, I don't
expensive
know.
fucking board game.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, you get a lot of playtime for that amount of money. But the
Mm.
idea that it's a one-time playthrough and it costs that much money, it kills me inside. So I want the removable stickers. I don't want to like ruin anything. But
I'm I'm not as much. I don't think about that as much. I guess because when I play a game like that, it's more of like an experience rather than it's kind of like going to Disneyland or something.
right.
Like you just pay a lot shitload of money and you just like, oh, that was fun. Because a lot of times I have so many games anyway. Uh, I mean, I'm lucky if I get through one campaign of a game. I mean, I'm still going through Gloomhaven. And it's one of my favorite games and still haven't finished it yet and still haven't unlocked everything. So
Right, right. And
it's,
I get that.
yeah, it's one of
I
those
think
games you could just play forever if you stretch it out long enough.
you really, I mean, it takes so long to finish Gloomhaven. I didn't even finish Gloomhaven. I finished the main like story campaign stuff,
Yeah.
but there's so many side missions that we never played. And there was also an expansion that I like own for it. But by
Mm,
the time we got to the point where we could use the expansion, because I didn't want to start the game with the expansion. I think you can do that, but we wanted to just experience the base stuff. And by the time we got that far, we had already played so much. And also, when we played Gloomhaven, it was during COVID 2020. So
mm,
I think by the time we finished Gloomhaven, work was opening back up. And so my sister went back to work and she had been playing with us. And then my brother wasn't around. He had only played a little bit of Gloomhaven because he doesn't live here anymore. And so it's just my mom and I who I'm amazed that she played it, but she actually really enjoyed it. So that was cool. But I think we were all just like, oh, the group's broken up, so we packed it up.
mm.
But yeah, it was great, great experience. It's just beyond complicated. If anyone is listening to this who hasn't played it and is thinking about playing it, get the Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion first because
Yeah.
that teaches you really well. But that game is so boring if you've played Gloomhaven first.
Well, I wouldn't say it's boring. It's just it's a lot easier. So if you play Gloomhaven first, yeah, it's kind of like a step down as far as like,
There's a lot of problems with it. There's nothing to unlock. The store
yeah,
is super basic. The characters themselves are ridiculously basic. Uh, but it's like a spectacular way to learn the game. It's
yeah.
just, I feel like all the complexity is gone.
I always recommend it. Like if somebody's thinking about getting Gloomhaven, I'm like, nah, get the other one first, and then you'll know.
Yeah,
Okay,
people
I can handle Gloomhaven or not handle it.
people think that they know what complicated games are, and then you open Gloomhaven. There's actually they made a Steam video game for Gloomhaven, and that helps teach you the rules pretty well too. So that's an option.
Yeah. Well, speaking of options, this is not a good segue. Uh,
I feel like you go 50-50 on those. Sometimes you have really good ones, and then other times it's not great.
okay, so let's see if how it goes. Speaking of options, if I had an option to rewatch a show, it would be The Mandalorian.
Oh,
That's my
okay.
segue. That's pretty
Not
good.
bad.
Uh, so my number, as far as we go, protagonists. I'm starting with a recent one. Mando from The Mandalorian is one of my favorite protagonists, just because I really like characters that are like they're badass, but they're not like brooding, unstoppable badasses. They're like, I mean, Mando gets his ass kicked a lot in that show, and you, even though you're pretty sure he's never going to actually die or get killed or anything, uh, he gets his ass kicked a lot. So that's at least like gives him some kind of vulnerability. So I think like for me, protagonists, even if they're like super badass, cool protagonists, they have to have some kind of vulnerability to them. And I think he's a good example of that because like, you know, he's not completely unkillable, and he's has a set of morals that he follows, and he tries to help. uh I can't even remember what the thing's actual fucking name is. Grignu or something.
Grogu.
Baby Yoda, basically. um so when I watched that show, one of the main reasons I liked it so much was because of that character. It wasn't necessarily um all the storyline stuff was good, but it wasn't like anything revolutionary as far as like storylines go. It was just the character Mando was interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm actually really shocked right now that that was your first choice. I was not expecting that. Uh,
Well,
and I'm a
he's not necessarily number one, but he was the first choice I
right,
brought up.
right.
Yeah.
I'm just was not expecting a Star Wars character from you. I'll be honest.
Well,
And
I'm full of surprises.
yeah, I'm a little shamed right now because you and I I think we both agree that I'm the much bigger Star Wars fan, right?
Yeah, I mean you like shitty movies, so yeah, you're a bigger fan.
Um, I don't like all of them though, but yeah, I don't have a Star Wars protagonist.
Oh,
And The Mandalorian is a really good one. So props to you for that. I think easily The Mandalorian is I always want to say this and then I always stumble because I always want to say that The Mandalorian is the best Star Wars property. But then I always want to bite my tongue because man, and I know this is controversial, but Revenge of the Sith has a special place in my heart, and it's always hard for me to say anything beats that. Um, but The Mandalorian is close. It's a really good show.
yeah, just I mean, I just watched it recently, like a year ago, like after it had been kind of out of the spotlight when, everybody was talking about it. And usually if I watch a show and like nobody's really talking about it as much, I'm not as in a rush to finish it. I'm just kind of like, I'll finish it whenever because there's no rush. Nobody's talking about it anymore right now. But pretty much watched two seasons straight of it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you know that season 3 comes out in February, right?
Yeah, I had to figure out how to get it here in Japan. Disney Plus is, we've talked about that before, how it's kind of a pain in the ass to get it over here, but uh
Yeah,
I'll figure something out, I'm sure.
you also have to watch the Book of Boba Fett before you dive into Mandalorian season 3 as well.
I kind of feel like watching the book of Boba Fett like so many people didn't like that show. I could just like read the summary of it.
I think that you have to watch it. I
uh,
don't want to spoil anything.
all
Um, but there are two very crucial episodes to The Mandalorian that
right.
like you absolutely should see.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm really not trying to spoil this, but and I'm not going to, but like directly related to the Mandalorian show. So like
well,
yeah.
that's kind of annoying though to me.
Well, I think what they're trying to do, or what they were trying to do, is create a Marvel-esque interrelated series of shows, sort of.
Yeah.
Now, they had Kenobi come out, and so far, I haven't seen any crossovers between that show and the other shows. And currently Andor is going on, and that's been 11 of the 12 episodes I've seen. And also zero crossover. But we also know that there are other shows coming out, such as the Ahsoka show. And
Mm,
I can't imagine that's not going to be like a crossover show.
uh,
So I don't know. But yeah, you out of all the shows, you definitely have to see the Book of Boba Fett. Now, I will tell you this: on the original watch, I was a lot more down on it, but I did rewatch it because my sister hadn't seen that show, and so I kind of watched it with her. And on a binge, it's way better.
mm.
So it's still not as great,
I'll
but
think about it.
it's only 7 episodes, I think. You have to watch it. Like it's really not an option. Otherwise, you're going to be so confused at the beginning of Mandalorian season 3.
All right. Well, what's your first pick?
My first pick for protagonists is going to go to First Law. I might say this name incorrectly. I've always called him Jazal Dan Luther. I do believe it's actually Jeezel. I think I saw an interview where Abercrombie called him Jeezel. I will always say Jazal because I'm not calling anyone Jeezel.
Well, when you said that, I was hoping I was thinking, please don't say Bloody Nine. Please don't say Bloody Nine. So I'm glad you didn't
No,
say Bloody Nine.
I think Logan Nine Fingers is easily the most overrated character of any franchise in anything ever. I don't know why people like him.
I mean,
Uh,
I love the first law, but
yeah,
that
me
character
too.
is not my favorite character.
Oh my God, I can't st whenever anyone says that the Bloody Nine is their favorite character, I want to slap them. I'm like, you're reading like the wrong series if that's your favorite character. Honestly, he's so boring. It's just a barbarian who like rages and never dies and like is invincible. I don't know. It's just
Well,
like boring.
it kind of
He
goes
does have some good lines. That's it.
it goes back to what we are saying, what I was saying about Mandalorian. He has you know, he has vulnerability and these kind of things. But yeah, Logan is like the no one can kill me, and I'm a
Yeah,
badass, and so you know, I like
yeah,
the character as for what he is, but he's
right.
not my
So
favorite.
Jazal, I just love him because he is the archetype of character. It's just my favorite. The guy that might not be the best fighter is kind of trying to climb the social ladder because they're, hungry for more, I guess. And then also is witty or smart or sarcastic. I love all of that, and I just love that type of character, who's much more like maybe manipulative than like, you know, than a fighter, I guess. And
Yeah.
I just like the good like word play, I guess.
Well, it's been years since I read any of
Oh,
the
me
that
too, man.
stuff, so I can't remember like exactly uh certain things about the character, but I do remember liking him as a character. And as far as like favorite character in that world, uh
It's a super hot take. Most people, it's either
yeah.
Glocta or the Bloody Nine. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anyone say that this character is their favorite, other than
No.
myself.
I can't. I actually quite like uh is it his sister?
Artie, she's one of my other favorite characters.
Yeah, I really like her actually.
Was that? No, that wasn't his sister. Artie was his the girlfriend,
Girlfriend or
right?
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But she's somebody's sister, right?
West,
Yeah, 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 that's right. Yeah.
who I also loved. West was a great character.
Yeah, I mean that series has lots of great characters,
Yeah,
but yeah,
definitely.
that would he probably wouldn't have been the my
No, I know. I've always get that reaction from everyone. They're like, "What? Him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he was brilliant. I love him." They're like, because typically you have the two sides when you talk about first law. You have like the people who prefer like the really good peoples, and they're like Logan Nine Fingers is my guy, and then you have like the people who are more like me, who are like, oh, I'm here for the gritty characters, the assholes, the worst of the worst, but they like Lockta,
yeah.
who I'm also a big fan of. Don't get me wrong, but something about Giselle just really resonated with me.
Okay, let's go to the next my next pick. Speaking of resonated,
Oh boy, let's hear it.
well, I'm gonna go with Ned Stark.
Really?
Yeah, but
Okay.
here's why. Ned Stark is like so dumbly good.
Yeah, that's why I don't like him.
he he's so like blinded by things. He is what we call a tragic hero, and you know the Greek sense of the word. He's a character you know something horrible is going to happen to him. He knows something horrible is probably going to happen to him. Despite that, he goes forward with his like. I just really like characters that have some code or some kind of like unbreakable oath. You know, these kind of things. Like the fact that I mean, this spoiler for Game of Thrones if you never watched the show or whatever the fuck. Spoiler. Uh, he knew the whole time that Jon Snow was not his kid, and he kept that secret forever. Like he never told anybody. I don't even think he told it his wife. I mean, did he? Who knew other than maybe Robert Baratheon knew? I mean, I don't even know who knew that Jon Snow was not his real half son or not half
Oh
son,
man, it's been so
his son.
long. I can't even remember.
But
Eh,
as far as like protagonists, when Ned Stark spoiler when Ned Stark gets killed, it hit me like hard, like wow, he's the only good person in this whole fucking story, which is why it stands out so much. He's the
Yeah.
only like really honorable good person that stands out who's not a child in the series really. And when once he's dead, it's like everything is snuffed out. uh, you know, uh, that one person that was kind of like shining some goodness on on the world was is dead. So
Yeah.
that's why he stands out to me in that series because he is the prototypical paladin, good guy, dumb to the point of like,
So
come on, Ned, like don't do that.
we didn't actually give our lists to each other before we started, but I'm gonna bring in my protagonist because it just fits. It's also from Game of Thrones, and it's Tyrion Lannister.
Mm.
So in the world of Westeros, I'm really like amazed that out of everyone, Ned Stark would be your favorite or one of your favorites. Because my list has probably almost every other character before him when it comes to favorite protagonists in Game of Thrones. But Tyrion Lannister, I liked basically for the same reasons as my last character too, was just the clever, the wit, the wordplay. But with Tyrion, there is an element of what you were saying about Ned Stark in him, I think,
Yeah.
where he has like I don't think he has like a written code, but he does seem to have a tendency to do good things a lot of the time when he's able to.
I think he finds himself drawn to people who are inherent or trying to do good, even if their way of doing good is kind of shitty. Uh, like Braun, or Braun is a mercenary, but ultimately he's not a bad person, right? He's not a complete piece of shit. So,
Maybe I remember him doing some shitty things, but
I
it's
mean, he
been a
does shitty things, but he's not like shitty things like a mercenary would do.
yeah. Yeah, I it's been so long since I've read the books or and I'm trying not to think about the show as much because I feel like the characters some of the characters are like really different feeling than in the book. And I can't remember if Braun was one of them or not. Uh but I always really liked Braun in both the show and the books. I just can't like verbalize why I liked him so much in the books.
I think I just like there used to be these like memes of like Calvin and Hobbes, the old cartoon, but it's like
Oh yeah.
Braun and Tyrion. So
Nice.
like I like those kind of relationships in the show, like the Sand or not Sansa, Arya and the Hound. Those kind of relationships where it's like you have kind of the smart one and you have the like or the clever one, and then you have the like brute force one. I always like
Yeah.
that kind of relationship.
Yeah, I think those are really good dynamics. Actually, that makes me think of another protagonist that isn't on my list who I wonder if I should have put him on. And that's Locke Lamora. Have you read The Lies of Locke Lamora?
It's actually a series that I own, and I've been meaning to read for years and years and years because everybody says it's great, but just
If
never.
Yeah, if you like the more like the dynamic between the smart one and the fighter one, you would really like that series, I think,
Mm,
because it the main characters have that like dynamic. Although I'd say the fighter, Gene, I think his name is, he is a bit if I remember right, it's been a really long time since I read these books. I'm pretty sure he's a bit like cleverer than maybe your typical fighter would be in a lot of those relationships. But yeah, it's a really good book. The first one is uh I remember when I first read that book, I whizzed through it and loved it. I've since tried to reread it. I I can't finish the book, and I think it's because A, I've already read it and I don't reread books really.
mm,
Um, but also I always get so bored with they have these like flashbacks, and I think that those really bored me on the reread.
mm.
On the first time you read through it, I don't remember having that issue. But I will say it takes a while for that book to like start,
Mm.
if I'm remembering correctly. But if you can get to when the stuff really starts, yeah, it's a really good book.
You going back to Tyrion, like he's top three characters for me also. I just chose Ned Stark because I think Tyrion is he's a product of that world. Like he knows when to do something good and when to do something shitty. Uh and he's not as stupidly good as Ned is. That's just why I like Ned.
But I don't say I respect that. I don't like that. I can't like a character that's that stupidly good, I don't think. Because like there's so many times in the book and the show really where you just want to slap him and be like, "What are you doing?" Like how many times do the Lannisters have to like fuck you over until you get it through your head that you can't just like keep operating this way?
Well,
Um
I think for his death is more of like a awakening of the story, kind of. It's like a pivoting point for the story. So his death has so many rippling effects. That's another reason I like him so much, because it's like once Ned is being killed, it's like, okay, here we go.
That's fair. Before I read Game of Thrones, I had not read a lot of Grimdark. I read the first law, which, a lot of people go back and forth on if that's even Grimdark. And I think some people kind of have a point at that it's like light Grimdark, I guess. I consider it like full Grimdark, but I get why people don't. But nothing in the first law. It has a few shocking moments, but Ned Stark's death was like so beyond shocking at that point in my life because I hadn't really read a lot of books where the Ned Stark character type died.
Yeah,
And when that happened, actually, I don't think I'd read any book where that happened, really. And when that happened, my jaw hit the floor. I was like stunned. I just didn't believe that had happened.
yeah.
But I love that, and the after effects of that death are just spectacular.
Yeah, so I think as a plot device and as a character, that's kind of why I view him as such a hugely important. Like he may be kind of like oblivious, but that's kind of what I love about him, is that he's just so. It's like you kind of want to aspire to be someone with that strong of morals.
You can aspire to that all you want. I'm taking the other route where it's like, whatever it takes to keep me alive.
All right, well, speaking of alive. Well, I'm going back and forth on who I should pick next. I kind of think we should maybe do a part two of this and talk about more if possible, but maybe not. We'll see. I'm going to go with a less recent choice, and this character I chose because uh, I don't think I would love fantasy if not for this character, and he's such an iconic character in fantasy, and that's Dritz Do'Urden from Forgotten Realms series by R.A.
Oh dear.
Salvatore's character. And the reason I choose him is because he's, I think on the surface, it seems he's a kind of very basic protagonist, but I like that he is a character from uh, a group of people that hate him, and I like characters that don't belong anywhere, and
Yeah.
that's what I always liked about that character. He doesn't belong in the overworld, but he doesn't belong in the Underdark either. Um, and just when I was a kid, I thought he was the coolest character, and like just as far as like effect on me as a reader and effect on me where I am now. Sure, maybe I wouldn't choose him like as my favorite now, but the character that had an effect on me as a reader of fantasy, I probably wouldn't be reading fantasy if not for that series. So, um, and he just had he was just like teenage boy would think he's the fucking coolest ever. Like he's got a cloak and he's got two scimitars. Fucking cool, man. And then like, oh man, he fights all these like monsters and shit. So like uh he was kind of like the original Witcher for me, which Witcher Geralt of Rivia was actually another one of my choices that I'll lump in together just because I like characters that are like kind of cool but kind of like silent badasses, but also uh have some other complexities to them. So like Geralt of Rivia has like these love triangle kind of thing going, and he's also kind of like the Mandalorian where he can get his ass kicked now and again. Um so those two characters together I just always liked. You know, they have the magic ability, but they also can fight with swords and stuff. And I used to think, you know, everybody would think like fairy fire is the shittiest spell ever, and like, man, fairy fire sucks. But like Dritz could do fairy fire, and then he would like slice up people and shit because it would like enhance his ability. So just as like a D&D fan or like a you know for like nostalgia or like why I got into fantasy, like that character definitely brought me into the genre.
You have a very similar taste in all of your protagonists so far, I think.
Well, I'm not typically the type of like that's like, oh, I like anti-heroes every time.
Yeah,
Like I like those kind of characters, but like I don't necessarily feel that um anti-heroes are not always the most interesting characters to me. Like they can be, but like I just tend to like protagonists that are, yeah, they all have some kind of code or something, or they all have some kind of like inner turmoil or something going on. Like
right.
a lot of grimdark protagonists are cool, but like they don't resonate with me in any way because they're just, I don't think that way. I guess.
Well, unfortunately, I sort of think that way. So I have a lot of the anti-hero love in my heart. But it is kind of funny how, we're both strong Grimdark lovers, but you really prefer I don't want to say stereotypical, but like the normal protagonist hero type.
Yeah, I think the reasons I like so, those choices is the vulnerability. I think that's the key factor. It and a lot of anti-heroes feel like they don't have any vulnerability. Like, oh, I'll do anything for money, and oh, I'll fucking cut anyone's throat, and like they have no
That's funny
scruples.
because I actually strongly disagree. I feel like a lot of times anti-heroes have more vulnerabilities in a way. I mean, like Tyrion Lannister has a lot of that, and the reason his character is the way he is because of those vulnerabilities. But I do get what you're saying, where a lot of them kind of don't have those. So I wasn't going to bring this character up next, but in the interest of solidarity with you and your protagonists that are basic, I have for
Basic.
also nostalgic sake Harry Potter. Uh, I for the books particularly, I was not like the biggest movie fan, but yeah, Harry Potter. also had a lot of that I don't belong here and I don't belong there type thing. Kind of didn't feel right with the muggles or the normal people, and in the wizarding world he was kind of an outcast but also a hero, and that neither of those things really resonated with him. And uh I don't know, I just really liked his whole journey, I guess. And like you said about Dritz, it's not that I would pick him probably even in my top five now, but I included him in my list because of how much I liked him when I was younger and how strongly I felt connected to the those books as I was reading them. Because I don't know, there was something about him that really worked, I guess.
Yeah,
But oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, I was just saying, like, as far as the reason I picked kind of basic, as you say, like I'm basic Phil. Uh,
Well, that's okay. I can be complex John and you can be basic Phil.
to me, your choices are not, they're not necessarily complex. They're kind of what I predicted you might say.
I'm sure.
Whereas mine probably shocked you a little bit because you probably expected more.
Yeah, I expected interesting characters.
They all they
I'm
are
just
all
kidding.
interesting in different ways. But I think for well, the Mandalorian, you agree with me at least.
I do. I just man, I love the Mandalorian. I just compared to so many other characters, is there the depth that I would want in a character? I don't know. Because I feel like he's kind of one note. But I
Uh,
also really like him.
yeah, I mean, I don't mind a character as one note if they're good at that one note. It's kind of like a band if they're good at playing a certain style,
Right.
then that's
Yeah, I
fine.
get that. And
Um,
I think that's obviously that's acceptable. Everyone can have their different opinions and what they like and stuff. And
right.
I do like the Mandalorian. I just want more from him, I guess. It's just hard because that show it feels so short.
Yeah.
You get I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know season one was 6 episodes, and I think season two was 6 episodes. I might be wrong. Season two might have been a little bit longer. It might have been 8 episodes. But and all of them were like 35 minutes, and like a lot of them were very separated from one another as like because it started out more as like an anthology type show and then sort of became a cohesive story later on. And now
Mm,
I would say it's much more so a cohesive story. So even though we've had those many episodes, it doesn't feel like it because a lot of them kind of felt like standalone adventures that didn't really build on much. And so I want there to be more character development, I guess, before I could like really like that as a great protagonist. I think he is good. I think he has a lot of potential to be superb. It's just the way the show has been so far. And The Mandalorian is one of my favorite shows like ever, so I'm not shitting on the show. It's just I really just want there to be more.
yeah, well, hopefully there's more going forward.
Right.
Uh as far as Harry Potter, I don't have any real connection to that series, so it's kind of hard for me to add anything. So uh but I can understand, kind of the reason Harry Potter's so successful is because it's interesting. boy becomes a wizard, and kids want to be wizards. It's kind of like when I was young and I read about Dritz. Like I wanted to go to the Underdark and fight fucking
You were a weird
spider
kid.
spider people.
I had zero desire to be no way. I loved reading about it, but I didn't want to be that person.
I want to go to the Underdark and fight spider gods, spider goddess.
Yeah, and get murdered.
Well,
Do we
speaking of getting murdered,
Oh, yes. All right. Uh
let's go to our protagonists of
where
this
yes.
series. Um,
And I will be fighting in this one, I do believe.
so actually, all of my answers I gave today were fake. I was trolling you.
I don't believe that.
That'd be pretty elaborate if I came up with all those explanations and it was just an elaborate, big troll I did.
All right. I think doing a part two is a good idea because there is at least one major character I wanted to talk about that we didn't get to, and I'm sure I have several more I could talk about.
Yeah, I still have a few I would like to talk about too. So I'm sure if people listen to this and they like our cold or hot takes, we'll do a part two because there's plenty of stuff we can get, and some of my choices are outside of the fantasy genre, so that's another thing. But the reason I said troll because you're fighting a troll.
Oh, I didn't even catch that, and I knew I was fighting a troll. Damn it.
Uh,
How did I miss that?
Piece it together.
Ah, usually I don't miss your really lame attempts to be clever.
Oh, that wasn't lame. That was very highbrow. Uh, Classic troll, regenerate ability, slashing, biting. Let's see how long the captain can withstand the
Yeah, I don't think
brutality.
this is going to go very well since I basically just have a sword.
You basically have a sword with no fire ability or anything.
Right.
All right, let's roll our initiatives.
I
Maybe
got a
you can
7.
survive. You really need to get higher decks somehow. All
I know.
right, I got better than that. 12.
Oh
All right,
boy.
the troll comes at you with his basic attack because Phil is so basic.
Well, you said it. I didn't.
I got 3 attacks, a bite and two claws. So this
What?
might just
He
straight
makes
up.
all 3 of them?
This sounds like you're probably just gonna die.
Dear Lord. I have 16 armor, by the way.
All right, so let's see. +7 to hit with the bite.
Oh God, God.
The
Yeah,
damage
for
the damage isn't so bad, so we'll see. He might straight up miss.
mm,
Oh
nope.
no, didn't miss. All right, 1d6 +4. So
It's not bad.
all right, you take 8 damage.
All right, I'm still up.
And the claws are a little bit stronger. So also a +7 to hit. So let's see. First claw, that's a miss. Second claw,
That's a hit.
that's a hit. So this does 2d6 +4.
I think this kills me.
So if I get decent roll here, you are dead. That's a decent roll.
I'm dead.
Poor thing. Dead in 1 round. Trolled
Oh
to hell
man.
and back.
Well, that's One round survived.
Yeah.
Man, that's typical for the paladin, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so one round, we get a mundane item. Let's see what we get.
All right. Am I rolling this or are you rolling it? I
I
forget.
got it. I do. I got a smoking pipe.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Well, it's going. I mean, out of all the mundane items, that might be the most useful. Relieve some stress.
Yep. So no level up, no nothing cool. Just a Ned Stark ending there for you.
To be fair, that's been a majority of the paladin's experiences in the arena here.
Well, that's going to conclude today's protagonist episode. If you agree with me, please tell me. Give me a high five. If you agree with John, you don't have to say anything. It's up to you. Of course, everybody's opinion is valid. We all love each other secretly or openly. I don't know. So that concludes today's episode. If you're interested in buying John's book, The Trials of Ashmount, you can pick that up. And we'll also have some material on negative-hp.com if you want to check out there. That's kind of the hub for all of the Philip Overby stuff. And you can go to Grimdark Fiction Readers and Writers and complain to me about my very basic protagonist choices. Not very grimdark of me.
No, very hot take in the grimdark world, I think.
Yeah, I was bringing that hot fire today. Some hot takes in the
Yeah,
grimdark world.
if you were like an admin of an epic fantasy group, it would be fine, but it's very weird.
Well, that concludes today's episode. Until next time, try not to be an asshole.
That's good advice.
Goodbye.